look at this little dude right here. You can see that that is a practice point for a Rage Trypan Hypodermic Crossbow, 150 grain. And you're probably wondering, well, I thought they didn't make practice points with them, and they don't. But what you do is you take a used one. I'm going to show you how to take a used one and make a practice point out of it. It's not perfect, but it does work. It does withstand shooting at a target, doesn't open up. And I do that with JB Weld. Now, JB Weld, if you're not familiar with it, neat little product, way better than super glue for this purpose. I used to do super glue, but that eventually broke free. JB Weld, there's a white, there's a black. You mix the two of them together, you know, and then you stir it up. You want 50-50 mixture of it. Make as much as you're going to need. You can see right here, I've got a nice little mixture of it on my little plate here. I use toothpicks. I got a bag of toothpicks here, a little baggie. Love storing stuff in baggies. Got a little baggie full of toothpicks. And I just keep that down here on the crossbow workbench so that I can do all this fun stuff. Jennifer's going to look at our workspace here and get in here, and I'm going to show you what I've got. I've got three little specimens here, okay, and I've got them all JB welded up, and then I take a clean paper towel the best I can and try and smooth them off a little bit. You just want to smooth them off. But I'm taking a used one, right, courtesy of Miss Genevieve, who used up a whole bunch of these Trypans last year, right? Mm-hmm. And we don't need to worry about them being sharp anymore or anything like that. Really what we're trying to do is mimic a closed Trypan broadhead. We're trying to mimic a closed one. Now, while you're doing this, it's important, once you start doing it, don't get your hands on the threads, because if you get any JB weld on the threads, even a little bit, it's not going to screw into your arrow and it will be worthless. So we're going to open them up like this. I found that this works pretty good. You can open them up, and man, you can see where it's chewed up a little bit. Man, that thing did some damage somewhere. It put a hurting on somebody. So who knows where? I don't know where they went. But we're just going to open them up flat like that, 100%. And I'm going to take some of this nice little mixture. You know that it's a solid mix when it's gray, a dark gray. And that makes sense because it's half white and half black from the JB Weld. If you don't mix them together in the proper mixture, 50-50, it'll take longer to harden up, if it hardens up at all. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this little toothpick. I'm just going to work this stuff in the slots like that. Put a little bit of it on here and work it into that slot good. Do the same thing on this side. Put it on here and work it in there good like that. You don't have to put a lot on. You don't have to glob it on. You just have to get it on there good so that it will seal those blades in when I close it up. And again, we're going to handle the sharp point and the blades, not the threads, because I've got this stuff on my hands now and it will ruin the threads. I had trouble with the other one. I had to clean it up a little bit. And if you get too much on there, I don't think it's going to work. So you want these things to work well for us. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to close it up. Put it like that, get those blades closed. And if you look, that looks like a closed up Rage Trypan right out of the box, like a brand new one, except for all the stuff that I have globbed down. And then we're going to take this dude and we're just going to smooth it up a little bit. And the only reason you're smoothing it up, you want to keep it somewhat aerodynamic, right? Somewhat aerodynamic. But I also don't want it to chew the target up any more than it has to. So we're just going to put that on there, get this stuff all over my fingers. And if you wash your hands after this, it'll be pretty good. And then I think we're pretty good. I'm going to hold it like this and just clean that tip off. Get right over here where you can see it. And that doesn't look too bad. See, look at that. When that hardens up, that'll go through a target. It looks aerodynamic, no more or less so than the original. The other key with this stuff, and you can pull back on me here, Genevieve. The other key with this stuff is making sure that you don't add too much of it, because we don't want to affect the weight too much. Now, if you do, that's why you get the scales out, right? You get your old scales out, and we're going to weigh them, and we're going to compare them with the ones that we're hunting with. We're going to compare the weight with the field tips that we use, the 150 grainers, right? 150 grainers. We're going to compare it with those. And if it gets too heavy, if you got too much on there, just take that into account when you're shooting that, yeah, we're in the same weight range. And if it's 10 grains heavier and this one happens to shoot a 1/4 of an inch lower, maybe that explains that. Just be thinking about what you're doing. You can also shoot without the little washer that goes on here. The Trypans have a washer that goes between the red clip and the insert on the arrow. So they have a washer that goes on here. Those, you could take that off. You could take the red clip off and adjust your weights that way to get the weights exactly the same, because you do want to keep them somewhat consistent. But if you're a couple grains off, it's not going to make much difference, really. You know, as hunters, I think we just want to be in the ballpark, really tight in the ballpark, right? Shooting a 1/4 at 40 yards if we can. This can help us do that because it provides us with valuable practice points for our Rage Trypans, to make sure they're going to fly the same as our field points, to make sure that we're perfectly sighted in when we go in the woods.